So why do you do what you do? It's such an important question. Today I want to share with you a principle I've learned over the years called clarify the when. So first of all, I've got to give credit to Andy Stanley. He has this great book called The 7 Practices of Effective Ministry. I would highly recommend you pick it up and read it. No matter who you lead and how you lead, it will apply to your leadership. This is practice number 7, and it was the most impactful one for me. Clarify the when. Well, what it means is pretty simple. Make sure you know why you do what you do and how to evaluate it so that as you evaluate, you can grow. I'm convinced that leaders can become exponentially more effective when they're always careful to make sure they clarify the when. I believe that a lot of people go to work every day and have no idea why they do what they do. They really don't know. They know what their job tasks and functions and their job description says, but they don't really remember why every day. And it would seriously impact their work if they did. And it's our job as leaders to clarify that when. As leaders, we define success. We can't evaluate what we cannot measure. To measure something, we have to know what success looks like. And to know what it looks like, we've got to define it. Here's a great example of how to clarify the when that we can see in the book of James in the Bible. Whether you're a Christian or not, I hope this will illustrate my point well. James chapter 1, I'm going to start in verse 19 and just kind of skip through. He says, "Now listen to this, my beloved brothers. Let every person be quick to hear, slow to speak, slow to anger, for the anger of men doesn't produce the righteousness of God." I love these short tidbits. He's like, do this, do that, don't do this, do that. You know why? Because of this. This is the why. And it's just really crystal clear. I think people want to be told what to do. And sometimes, especially if you're like me, you want to kind of define those things together and involve your team. And that's a great, heart level motivation you have. But we've got to tell people, hey, we need to do this, and here's why. So then he says all these other things not to do. And he says, hey, be doers of the word and not just hearers only, deceiving yourselves. If anyone's a hearer of the word and not a doer, he's like a man who looks in the mirror and sees his natural face. And as soon as he leaves, he forgets what he looks like. You know why he forgot? Because he didn't take long enough to evaluate what he looks like on a particular day so that he could grow for tomorrow. If anyone is hearing and is not doing, he won't be blessed. That's what it says. It says the alternative of that, actually. Being not just a hearer who forgets, but a doer who acts, he'll be blessed in his doing. If anyone thinks he's religious and doesn't keep a handle on his tongue, his religion is worthless and he's deceiving his heart. What a massive motivation for us who are trying to make sure that what comes out of our mouth is good. He goes on to say, religion that's pure and undefiled before God the Father is this: to visit orphans and widows in their affliction and to keep oneself unstained from the world. So, this, whether you agree with these words I'm saying right now or not, is totally fine. The point is, the leadership principle is we define success. For me, one of the roles as a leader that I have is a worship leader. It's actually a really challenging role to define success in. If I define it based on how I did things go well, did I make mistakes, the focus is on me and not necessarily on the result. If I define success by saying, what happened in the room? Did it look like God was moving? Were people engaged? Now I'm judging their hearts based upon their outward appearance, which is not really what I want to do, even though it does give me some indication. If I say, things felt really good today, and I judged based upon the emotional state of the room, that's not so great either, because that can ebb and flow, and some days it feels good, some days it doesn't. That doesn't mean it was good or it wasn't. So how do I define success? Here's how I clarified the win for me. Long-term spiritual fruit. I want to see people becoming more like Jesus every day, knowing Jesus, and starting to look like him in the day-to-day lives. This means I can't clarify the win on each and every moment, but over a broad scope, I can start to define success and measure that. Are people's lives being transformed? That's how I clarify the win. But that's not what you need to know today. How do you clarify the win? You can't evaluate something you can't measure. Consider what your life goals are for your family, for your work, your professional life, your personal life. Whatever they are, figure out a way you can measure and evaluate those things. As you clarify the win, I believe it will sharpen your leadership and make anyone who you lead and who is following along with you more able to grow into their future as well. That's how I clarify the win for me. How about for you?